mit der Akzeptanz der 4 Grundfreiheiten und dazu gehört auch die Freizügigkeit der Personen. Brexit means Brexit.
Hello and welcome to another Brexitometer brought to you by the Martin Center. You may remember that last time we met it was much sunnier and much warmer than what it is now. We came to you from Greece. Well, now I am back in London, and so are many other problems that the UK is currently facing. You could say that the mood of the country is a bit like the mood we all have when we return from our holidays and it's September. We have all kinds of issues to face. There's a bit of uncertainty, there's a bit of excitement, I would say, but primarily there's a lot of worry about various issues that are coming up. There's geopolitical challenges, there's economic challenges, and of course the pandemic is never out of focus. And of course Brexit is back in the news. Ireland is again the big fault line, is again the place where everything happens. As I record this, the negotiators on the two sides, Maros Sefcovic and Lord Frost, are again trying to save the Northern Ireland protocol. So Brexit is always in the background. It's not really the main news anymore, but it's a bit like a cloud that hangs over everything. There's many challenges that the UK will face again. Many people are worried that this will be another difficult winter politically and economically. So let's have a look at where we are right now. So the UK was welcomed back to the real world, to the hard world of geopolitics, right when summer was ending with the crisis in Afghanistan and the chaotic scenes of the evacuation from Kabul airport. This was of course a shock for the UK, as it was for the rest of Europe, but for the UK it was just a bit harder for various reasons. First of all, because of course the UK was the country that, next to the US, was the most involved in the war on terror for the last 20 years. It actually had to be there for all the time. So in a sense, America's failure and America's retreat is felt just a bit more intensely here in the UK. But there's also another reason why for the UK this was a very difficult moment, and it had to do of course with the realization that the US is now retreating as a security guarantee from many parts of the world. This is something that the EU is also perceiving as very, very important. Make no mistake, this is a shock for the whole of the West, but for the UK it feels much more important. And the reason is that, of course, after Brexit, for the UK, the security relationship and the security guarantee and the close relationship with Washington is even more important. Realizing that Washington is actually, that the United States is retreating from various parts of the world, the Middle East, the Mediterranean, Europe, from the transatlantic area as a whole, is something that is very problematic for the British diplomacy as it tries to find new partners after Brexit. So yes, the EU, Europe does feel adrift after what appears to be a big retreat of US presence and US guarantees in world affairs, but it's fair to say that for the UK, for London, it feels just a bit more adrift. And how that unfolds in the future, we will have to wait and see. But if the world is a more unstable and a more uncertain place, this feels definitely very, very true for people in the UK. Now, after geopolitics, what is the second main problem that any country faces? Of course, it's the economy. Economic data shows that the British economy is rebounding okay from the pandemic, less bad than what was feared, but economic challenges remain. There's of course always the worry that developments with coronavirus will force the country into another lockdown, which would be very, very difficult indeed. There's another problem though which relates to the economy, and this has to do with the state of the health service, which of course had a very difficult, extremely difficult year and a half. Everybody knows that the National Health Service in the UK is very much stretched. There's also a problem with social care. So what did the government decide to do to remedy all of this? What governments usually do when they need help from their citizens: increase taxes. This was actually very difficult for the government to do. So the Conservative Party is always prides itself in being the party of low taxation, and Boris Johnson is famously a prime minister who doesn't like to give bad news to the people. Yet he instituted a new tax, social care levy as they call it, primarily on millions of workers who will have to pay more than national insurance contributions through their salary. Now, as an academic nearing age 40 on a stable salary myself, you can imagine how I feel about it. I dread the moment when I will have to see the new levy appear on my payslip next spring. But that's a decision the government took because it knew that it now had the window of opportunity to do something to remedy the health service. Quite amazingly, but you could also say this is actually that usually happens with Boris Johnson. People are annoyed, but not too annoyed. Boris really has the capacity to sell things like that, but we'll have to wait and see how much the public will have patience. For the government, it's a big gamble that the economy will continue growing after the pandemic, even with the new taxation. But if the government is forced into a new lockdown because the COVID situation gets bad, then the economic mood could sour quite a bit. And Boris had quite a big problem selling this new tax increase to his own party. So the economy is a big gamble for the Boris Johnson government, but Boris thrives on gambles, so we'll have to see how that develops. Speaking of the economy and COVID and crisis, there is another slow-burning crisis unfolding currently in the UK, which may sound a bit funny. It's kind of funny until now, but I do worry when it will start not being funny and being serious. And that is that actually there are shortages in the supermarket shelves. It's quite amazing for a developed Western economy, and in a way that kind of feels like finally pro-European side in the 2016 referendum is vindicated when they were saying that Brexit would result in shortages, what the Leave side back then called Project Fear. And it is true, when I go to my supermarket right now, it is really impossible to find mineral water. I have no idea why. So is Brexit to blame for this? Well, yes and no. Economists say that there are challenges with supply chains. It has to do it's due to various economic reasons. The pandemic actually does play a role with that. A lot of people working in supply chains and supplying supermarkets and shops do have to self-isolate because of COVID, so perhaps this is something that will go away as the pandemic goes away. But Brexit does have an indirect role here as well, and the reason is that because of Brexit and because of the pandemic, thousands of EU workers have left the UK and never returned, while we expect thousands more to leave the country. So essentially Brexit does have the impact that many people were warning about over the last 5 years, and that is that many EU workers who work in sectors that keep the economy going and keep the economy flowing are leaving the country. When that happens, what that means, will that be something that can be remedied down the line, or is this a permanent fixture? We don't know. It's also difficult to pinpoint the blame directly to Brexit, and that basically is a good way to show what Brexit is about. It's not a big bang crisis, more of a slow-burning thing that slowly affects life, but it is never easy to blame it for everything. And I guess that's the magic of Brexit. It's one problem among many, and we'll have to live with it. So this was another Brexitometer, slightly pessimistic, but then again, that is life in September after holidays are over and the weather starts getting a bit more grey. We have negotiations over Ireland, where actually Brexit may again become front page news. We have COVID cases rising right at the moment when schools are returning, and I have a new tax to pay next spring, and I will let you know what my payslip looks like by then. There's all kinds of new political and economic developments. The worst case scenario, some people are saying that we may be ahead of some kind of a new winter of discontent with a combination of shortages and the pandemic and the new difficult geopolitical context that the British government finds itself in. We will be here to give you all the developments, of course. Remember, what happens in the UK concerns the EU as well. Until next time you meet, you can always send me your questions or comments on developments in the UK using the hashtag Brexitometer on all social media. Until then, take care.
Mit der Akzeptanz der 4 Grundfreiheiten und dazu gehört auch die Freizügigkeit der Person. Brexit means Brexit.